if you've been here over the summer, that we've been doing a series of all-age meetings, everybody in together, called My Favourite Verse. Now, it's not been about my favourite verse, because this morning is about my favourite verse, but rather it's been about the favourite verses of each of the people speaking over the last few weeks. And the idea is to encourage us again to get excited about the Bible and the power of God's voice. Now, if you know me, don't shout out at this moment. If you're a good friend of mine, you would probably know the answer to the question, what is my favourite verse? Please don't say. But if you were going to do a quiz on me, this would be the correct answer, or what I'm going to tell you about this morning will be the correct answer for my favourite verse. One of my friends, when I texted her about the fact I was preaching on my favourite verse this morning, she said, which one? And I thought, well, actually, that is true. I do have a lot, but this one would be my all-time favourite verse. But I'm going to keep the anticipation going for a little bit longer and not tell you what it is. And we're going to do an activity. So, I need some volunteers this morning. I promise you that unlike last week, nobody's going to be eating anything disgusting or having to do anything awkward. So if you'd like to volunteer, I need maybe about 5 or 6 volunteers this morning. So it doesn't matter how old you are, you can volunteer. Okay, I'm going to pick my volunteers as well, just because I don't, I want to make sure they're okay. So hands up if you'd like to volunteer. Yes, Zach, that would be great. Mike, yes, that would be brilliant. Anybody else want to volunteer? Either James or Nathaniel. I'm not going to have both of you. Could all go terribly wrong. Okay. Anybody else want to volunteer? Some ladies even? Don't need only men here, I promise. Naomi, thank you. I'm going to pick somebody in a minute. Who loves being up the front? Ali, you can join me. The wonderful Ali Wassel. And finally, let's see if there's anyone small. Anyone little like to volunteer who's sitting quietly? Ivan, do you want to come up? No, okay. Yes, come on, that's fine. Remind me of your name, sorry. Daniel, hi, Daniel, right. Okay, so the first thing you have to do, you've almost done it, but you just have to get yourself in height order. Go for it. See how quickly you can do this. By the way, can I have my PowerPoint up by any chance? Okay, that's great. Okay. Do we think they've got it correct? Okay. Okay, Mike, how tall are you, Mike?
I'm 5'9" and a bit.
5'9" and a bit? Okay. And do you know how tall you are? No. You're about this tall. Now, I'm not sure, actually. Shall we do... Is he right? Is he right? Back to back, back to back. It's close, but just. Okay. So now the tallest person in the world today, okay, is a guy called, it's coming up on the screen, a guy called Sultan Kozan, who measured 8 foot 2.8 inches. That is tall. Okay, and the tallest ever man was Robert Wadlow. I like to give lots of facts in case you're in a pub quiz. And he was 8 foot 11. I mean, that is tall, isn't it? That is really tall. Okay, next one. Okay, you've got to get yourself in order of age. Okay, order of age. Order of age. Have you checked? Have you guys checked how old you are? Okay, that wasn't much of a jiggle around, was it? Ali, I don't know if I'm allowed to say how old you are. Do we need to check that you're the oldest?
Yeah, you do.
Okay, how old are you, Ali? Woo! You're looking good for 50. Okay, and Daniel, how old are you? 8. Okay, now this one so the oldest woman in the world is nowhere near as old. She was... I'm friends with Ali, by the way. We're friends. Well, we were friends before I got her up here. I don't know. Okay, so Jean, I don't know how you say it because it's French. I think it's probably... Somebody help me out? Jeanne, do we think? Okay, Louise, comment? From France. She lived until she was 122 years old. There she is. She's amazing. Okay, and finally, this is where you need to get yourself in order of feet size. Okay, so you might need to talk to each other and check what size you are. Talk to each other. Okay, you might need to swap, maybe. Okay. Oh, we're just checking our feet size down here, everybody. Okay. So down the end here, Mike, what size feet do you have?
Size 10.
Size 10. James?
Size 8.
Ali?
5.5.
5.5.
5.5, okay. Did you measure?
Yeah.
Size 2? And size 2 as well. Okay, excellent. Well, the person with the biggest feet is not me, although I have quite large feet. You can ask me afterwards how big my feet are. You're now all looking at my feet as well. But the person with the biggest feet in the world currently is a guy called Hernandez, and he's from Venezuela. There he is. And his feet are 41 centimeters, which is, if you've got size 3 feet, it's nearly double the size of your feet. And there he is, you can just see in a picture there. His feet are massive. Okay, so a little bit of Guinness Book of Records for you this morning. Let's give these guys a round of applause. Thank you for volunteering, most of you, and thank you, Ali, for getting up, even though you didn't volunteer. So, some things are measurable. In fact, quite a lot of things are measurable, as you can see. But some things are not measurable, and that brings me nicely on to my favourite verse, which, if you, my friends, you probably know, it is Ephesians 3:20. It is a mighty and amazing verse that says this: "Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us." And it goes on. But we're just going to look at this bit this morning. And I love this verse because there is something intrinsic about who God is and what he does that is immeasurable. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. Something intrinsic about who God is and what God does that is immeasurable. I'm going to tell you a little bit about why this is my favourite verse. When I was 18, I went and did a gap year in Bournemouth, and I worked with an organisation called PACE. It's a schools work organisation. I went into local schools. I did a gap year. I decided that God wanted me to give a year of my life to serving him. And that's what I did. I was 18, and if you can imagine this, I was really nervous. I'd never spoken in front of anyone before in my life. I'd never moved away from home. I didn't know the family that I was going to move in with, and I was really, really scared. But I was determined to do it because God had asked me to do it, and I was going to do it. And so I did it. And at the end of the year, I came across this verse. I hadn't been a Christian that long, so I'd never really read the verse before. And I came across this verse, and I realized it was the verse of the year, that God had done over the course of that year immeasurably more than I could have asked or imagined in my life. I know now I'd made lifelong friends, but at the time I looked back and I thought, do you know what? God has done so much in my life and the lives of those around me. It was just the most amazing year. And I made a decision at that point that it was also going to be my verse for every year of my life, that I wanted God to do immeasurably more than I could ask or imagine through my life, not just at the age of 19, but for the rest of those years. And I just love that verse. And I want to tell you why it's still my favourite verse. 20 years on, I know that's hard to believe, but 20 years on, it is still my favourite verse. And the reasons why that is it genuinely is still my story. That I can look back and see how God has done immeasurably more than I could have asked or imagined. Not necessarily in the way that I thought, not necessarily in everything going the way I thought it would, but because he is that kind of God. And the other reason it's my favourite verse, it's my kind of go-to verse, if you like, because I don't know if you're anything like me, sometimes you think, why doesn't God work things out the way I thought he would? Why hasn't God done something here? Why hasn't this worked out? Why hasn't this been the way I thought it would? And it brings me back to a point of faith in God. Every time I read this verse, I think, God is a God who can do immeasurably more. I might not see it right now, but I believe it, and I believe that I believe in a God who is about doing immeasurably more. So it brings me back to faith. And the third reason, well, I'm going to tell you the third reason at the end of my talk. But I'm naturally a realist. Okay, so again, if you know me, you know I'm a realist. So I like to say things as they are. I like to observe things as they are. I like to talk about things as they are. I kind of like facts and figures and things, just to be a realist. And a couple of weeks ago, Kathy spoke. Kathy's my flatmate. She spoke at Highcliffe, and she told the story about whether you're a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of person. And I always find it a really odd question because, to me, it's obvious. Either the glass has been filled half to halfway and therefore it's half full, or you've drunk half of it and therefore it's half empty. It's kind of like, it's a bit of a silly question, really, and I know we know what it means, but that's the kind of person I am. I'm like, well, tell me the facts. Did you fill the glass half full, or did you empty the glass and therefore it's half empty? So some people are like me, and they like to see things just as they are, and that's it. Some people, on the other hand, in that verse, talks about an imagination, being able to imagine things, and maybe you're somebody who has a really cool imagination, and you can see things that aren't already there. We're going to watch a clip from a film now it's the film Inside Out, and if you've watched it, it's all about what goes on in people's brains and in the inworking of who we are. And this is where some of the characters embark on imagination land. So hopefully the video will play. I don't know if it's been tested this morning, so let's see.
Imagination Land.
Imagination Land?
Sure, I come here all the time. I'm practically the mayor. Hey, you guys hungry? There's French Fry Forest.
No way!
Oh, check it out. Trophy Town. Medals, ribbons. Everyone's a winner. I won first place.
Me too!
Oh, participation award.
Wait, is that it? Look, it's Cloud Town. That is my favorite. Oh, it's so soft.
Oh, let me try.
Hey, what's the big idea? You better fix that wall, or else you're in big trouble.
Oh no, lava! Oh!
Imagination Land is the best.
There we go. Imagination Land is the best. And maybe you're somebody who has a great imagination. Have a think and a ponder on that verse for a moment. If you are somebody with a big imagination, God can do even more than you can imagine. And the Bible also says that no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared in advance for those that love him. And maybe, just maybe if it's not now, it's when we get to heaven, that God will do much more than our imaginations can get our heads round. And the verse, as I said, inspires me to be kind of someone of faith that looks at a situation and thinks, what is God going to do in this situation? What can he do? He can do immeasurably more than I ask or imagine. So we looked at things that were immeasurable, didn't we, at the beginning here, but I think there are some things, quite a lot of things, that I think are immeasurable. So for those of you who haven't been at school for a few weeks, I thought I'd do some maths with you. Yeah, because as you know, maths is my favourite subject. I do like to bring maths in as much as I can. I've also credit to Matt Bridle, who was part of this conversation, in helping me make sure my mathematical facts were correct. Okay, so the very beautiful, amazing, awesome number pi, okay, it is 3.14, okay, and but it's also, I don't know if you know this, but it's not just 3.14. It goes, the decimal places on this number go on forever and ever and ever. So you can write it, if you want to 10 decimal places, there it is. And if you want to, you can write it to 25 decimal places, or if you're particularly bored, you could write it to 500 decimal places, or 2,500 decimal places. You can keep writing this number. And this number is a really cool number because it's used to, for those of you who don't know, it's used to measure the circumference of a circle or the area of a circle. It's a really cool number. But if you like, it's a little bit undescribable. You can't quite pin it down. If you like, it is immeasurable. And that picture was there just because Paul Cox was feeling hungry when I was doing my PowerPoint, so there you go. He got a pie on there. So and then the next number is, generally numbers in general are kind of immeasurable. They keep going on and on and on. A Googleplex is apparently the biggest number that you are ever going to find until somebody decides to make a bigger number. So if you Google this, Graham has made a bigger number called Graham's number. So I don't know if maybe you want to go on and go, Martin's going to make a bigger number and it's going to be Martin's number, or Paul's going to make a bigger number, it's going to be Paul's number. And because, of course, numbers can just keep going on and on. So as soon as someone makes a really big number, they can just make a slightly bigger one. And the point is, numbers are immeasurable. Or what about the stars? We really just don't know how many stars there are. There are an estimated number of stars. And nobody knows how many grains of sand there are in the world. Again, it's a complete estimate. Some things in life are just immeasurable. And God is immeasurable. And as I've been pondering this verse over the week, I've realized that it's not just the things he's doing, it's who he is that is immeasurable. Did you know that the God of the universe loves you with an immeasurable love? Let's read some other great verses in the Bible. Paul says, I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power, together with all the Lord's holy people, to grasp how high and wide and long and deep is the love of Christ. Or the psalmist who says, for great is your love, higher than the heavens. Your faithfulness reaches to the skies. There's a sense there that actually they're wanting to express you can't measure God's love. You can't measure God's love for you. Or what about his forgiveness? I don't think you can measure that either. When I reflected on that, I thought, over my life, I've done many things, said many things, thought many things that haven't lived up to God's standard, that have been wrong, that are sin. I have got shame. I've had shame in my life that is big and kind of, in my own mind, immeasurable. But God's forgiveness is bigger than all of that. He's bigger than all of the things that we've done wrong. Those things that we couldn't count. We can't count those things. And God is bigger than those things. And if you're not a Christian here this morning, I just want to encourage you that God's forgiveness, God's love is bigger than anything in your life that you're facing. He can cover it all. And he has through Jesus dying on the cross for us. And I just encourage you to speak to whoever's brought you or one of us more about that at the end of the morning. But these things give us an idea of how big and great and awesome God is. And so I just go on to my third reason why this is my favourite verse. It's because it goes on to verse 21. So here we go. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. To him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. You can't really read 20 without 21. And so the two really come together. And the thing I love about this is it reminds me that all of it is about the church. God loves his church. And that's not a building, that's not Airfield Road, that is us, that's you and me together. He loves his church and he wants to bring glory in his church. And he wants to bring glory in Jesus, and it's about him getting the glory. And it's just amazing. And when I think about it, I think you and I get to make a footprint in eternity. The things that you and I do as a church, the things that God Thirst do as a church will go on bringing glory to God throughout all the generations forever and ever. And that is just amazing. Now, for those of you who haven't picked up on this, we are doing something quite amazing in a couple of weeks' time. And I've just got a video that some of us saw last week, but some of us haven't seen, to show us what we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks' time. So thanks, Josh. Okay, so on the 1st of September, we are indeed going to Airfield Road. And it isn't about a building, although God has and is going to be giving us a home. It is about you and me. And as I finish this morning, the welcome team guys are just going to give out a take-home. For those of you who know, I also quite like a take-home, partly because most of the time you go away from a Sunday morning and think, what did that person speak on? I can't even remember. So this is my way of helping you remember what I've spoken on this morning. And the truth is, his power is at work within the church and within you to do immeasurably more. God does immeasurably more, but it's through his power that is at work within you. And so what we're going to do in just a moment is kind of look ahead to this next step in our venture together and ask God, what is he going to do in and through us? I'm really excited actually that the Academy's theme for the year is immeasurably more. That's really exciting because that's my favourite verse. And so if you didn't pick up on that. And what this is I've got a picture of Airfield Road here, again, just to ascertain that the church is not the building, it is the people. But in this context, we are moving to a new location. And then at the top here, there's a blank photo frame for you to either stick your own photo, you could put a little passport photo of yourself in there, or draw a little picture of yourself if you prefer to show your artistic prowess. And so when you get home, you can draw a little picture of yourself, or you can stick your picture on, because actually it counts you. God needs you. God needs me. He needs each one of us to play our part, that he will do immeasurably more than we could ask or imagine. We want to believe in a God who can do immeasurably more.